Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. So today I'm going to be reviewing another Christmas horror book. This is Cold Snap by Lindy Ryan. I did just recently receive this in my December 2024 Nightworms. I had never heard of Lindy Ryan before, so this is my first introduction to her writing. And I'm interested to talk about this. This was not at all what I expected. Oh Lord. This was not at all what I expected. So I'm gonna read the inside flap and we're gonna dive in from there. So it says, 2 weeks ago, Christine Sinclair's husband slipped off the roof while hanging Christmas lights and fell to his death on the front lawn. Desperate to escape her guilt and her grief, Christine packs up her 15-year-old son and the family cat and flees to the cabin they'd reserved deep in the remote Pennsylvania wilds to wait out the holidays. It isn't long before Christmas begins to hear strange noises coming from the forest. When she spots a horned figure watching from between frozen branches, Christine assumes it's just a forest animal. A moose, maybe, since the property manager warned her about them, so they'd stomp a body so deep into the snow, nobody'd find it till spring. But moose don't walk upright like the shadowy figure does, and they don't call Christine's name with her dead husband's voice. The premise of this book sounds so good. And that's kind of where it stops. That's an accurate description of what this novella, it's like 120 pages, is. But the best way I can think to describe this is a jumbled fever dream of ideas thrown together and not fully executed well. And I don't really want to, like, come out from the gate so negative, but I'm not really sure how else to tackle this review. The first, like, 20 pages or so of this novel were really straightforward. We're with Christine and her son, Billy, in the car, driving to this remote cabin with her cat, and we're sort of getting backstory on their relationship, as well as the traumatic recent demise of the patriarch of the family, Christine's husband and Billy's father. And it's sad, and it sets up the premise, and they're going to this cabin because the father, Derek, had booked it and wanted them to have a cozy cabin away from home for Christmas for the first time ever, so they could experience a white Christmas in the snowy mountains in Pennsylvania. Cool. And then when we get there, things start to go wrong. And there were just so many moments when I was reading the story where I was just like, come on, Christine, like, your grief is bad, but your grief isn't that bad that you make that type of decision. When they get there, the property manager is really unpleasant, doesn't want to help them get their reservation, upgrades them to a nicer cabin because at the end she feels pity for them for understanding the situation. And then Christine just says, nah, we're good. We're not going to take the nicer cabin, even though you're going to upgrade us for free. Why wouldn't you do that? Just right off the gate, we're making really weird, really bad decisions. We have a moody teenage boy who for some reason is sitting in the back of the car instead of in the passenger seat. And they kept emphasizing that plot point, that he was sitting in the back of the car, not up front with his mom, which I don't know a 15-year-old who wouldn't want to sit in the front of a car because the back is always so cramped. So there was also, like, which is weird things about that. And I was kind of like, okay, so they're making these weird, bad decisions from the jump. Maybe that's going to lead to something. Maybe it's going to kind of come back into play. But it really doesn't do anything except tell me, like, all right, something weird is going on and the judgment is clouded. Then our main character continues to make really weird decisions, like escorting the whole family up to a cabin in the woods 2 weeks after the horrible, horrific death of her husband in front of her, and just, like, forgets that, like, you need groceries. And then we get, like, a whole chapter on, like, the description of a frozen pizza. And it was just really bizarre. But the problem is, like, that is where this novel stops making sense. Once Christine goes on this grocery run and gets this frozen pizza after driving 20 miles to get to the grocery store while leaving her son alone in a cabin in the woods with a cat at a place where you're not allowed to bring pets, and it says all over the place, no pets, and they ignore all the signs, bring the cat, everything starts to stop making sense. And it was like being in a really bad nightmare, and I think that was what Lindy Ryan was trying to do with this story, where all of a sudden the mom has something in her hands and puts it down and misplaces it and loses it, and then it shows up pages later in a completely different space. in an impossible to have gotten there space. We're constantly jumping from scene to scene. There's no transitions to anything. One moment Christina's in the kitchen, one moment she's outside, one moment she's in the car, one moment she's in the bedroom, and it's just splicing back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. And all of this happens after she sees this mysterious moose. And I was like, okay, maybe the moose is gonna be some kind of like cool otherworldly spirit, and like her brain can only conceptualize that it's a moose because of what she sees, but I'm pretty sure it was just kind of a weird monstrous like talking moose. And one of the things that was interesting is like there's all these warnings at the beginning of the book there's all these warnings at the beginning of the story of like, watch out for the moose, watch out for the moose, moose are very dangerous. Yes, moose are very, very dangerous. You know where moose don't live? The mountains in Pennsylvania. And when I first got this book, that was actually one of the things that I was like, I didn't think moose lived in Pennsylvania. And then after reading this amalgamation of concepts, I went and Googled if there are ever moose in Pennsylvania. There is no record of moose ever being in Pennsylvania. And then I'm wondering, like, are they even in Pennsylvania? Because at one point, Billy was like, are we in New York? Are we in Massachusetts? Like, I don't think Lindy Ryan knew what she was doing with the story, and I'm having a really hard time reviewing it because I can't actually explain to you what happened in this story. What I can say is that for some reason, there is a horrific, horrific animal death scene, and it is so long and so drawn out and so detailed in the aftermath and just constantly brought up that I kept waiting for there to be some sort of payoff for having to read how awful that was, and it was nowhere to be had. It is the goriest, in fact, it is the only gory moment of the entire book, and it is pages and pages and pages and pages of the horrific death of an animal. And I couldn't believe that it was in here, because everything else I just couldn't follow along in the page. I have no idea what message this book was trying to send because I don't understand what happened. The only thing that I can get is that Christine watched her husband fall off the roof of the house and die while stringing Christmas lights that she asked him to hang up. And that scene is spliced every couple paragraphs for the entirety of the novella, whatever it is. You read that scene over and over and over and over and over again, but you never get any new details. It's just the same scene over and over and over again told through different words. And it was so jarring. And there's no like placeholders or paragraph breaks or like italicized font to tell me that we're all of a sudden jumping into a flashback. So as we're jumping through these flashbacks and this like almost fever dream delirium of guilt that our main character is going through, I have no idea what space and time I'm supposed to be in. And her relationship with Billy was so bizarre because I kept feeling like she was like slowly losing her mind and Billy was like a witness to it. But I'm kind of also like, was Billy also losing his mind? Because his reaction to a lot of stuff was just very like average teenage boy or just like horrifically traumatized, and then he would just go back to being totally fine. So I had no idea what was happening there. And I felt like it was building up to this like confession that was going to pour out of Christine or some sort of guilty memory that was going to surface, and nothing ever came of it. And then the novel just ends. It just ends. I literally thought I was in the middle of a sentence and I turned the page and the story was over. And I don't understand what happened or why or what was going on. I have no idea of the fates of any of our main characters. I have no idea the message that this novel was trying to send. All that I know is that they were trapped in this awful cabin. That sounds so unfestive that I can't believe that the whole premise of this novel was how badly Christine's husband wanted to go to this place and how she just like doubled down and was like, yeah, we're staying in the crappy cabin and not upgrading for free to the nice cabin. And we're going to do this 2 weeks after this horrifically traumatizing event and isolate ourselves in a cabin in the woods, in the mountains where these mystery moose roam. I have no idea what to make of this book. This was a 2-star read for me. It was very hard to follow. It was very hard to understand the sentence structure, the paragraph structure, the story structure. There was definitely like some kind of artistic direction Lindy was trying to go in with in some kind of metaphorical take on grief and I believe survivor's guilt, and like struggling with the loss of a loved one while being a parent. That was all conceptually there, but it just didn't translate concretely into a cohesive message, if that makes sense. And I was just so confused by what I was reading. Like, there were like moments where I was like rereading a sentence and I was like, am I just not smart enough to understand what's going on here? Because I just really don't get it. And then I spent like forever reading Goodreads reviews after I finished this last night, being like, tell me I'm not the only one who felt this way, and I don't think I am. The Christmas setting was interesting. I don't really think the Christmas setting was necessary. This isn't necessarily a Christmassy book. It is definitely a winter isolation story, but the Christmas aspect I could live without. I mean, there's like a stack of presents and some kind of like feast in there. But that's literally as Christmassy as we get. So this was a 2-star read for me. I just couldn't wrap my brain around it. I'm not sure what the message was in this, but it was 120 pages, so I read it really, really quickly. I will be reading more from Lindy Ryan just because I have her, this anthology collection that she edited, The Darkest Night, which is all like Christmas horror stories, and I know that she has a story in there. So I will be reading that and see if this is maybe her style, and I just went into this not realizing that was her style, but whew, this was difficult, and not at all what I thought it was going to be. The premise is accurate. The premise sets up the plot. I just don't understand what the plot was. So, I don't know. 2 stars. 2 stars. Anyways, that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I try to post every Monday and Thursday, sometimes on Saturdays. And if you enjoyed these videos, please hit the like, subscribe buttons down below, and I will catch you all in the next one. Mwah.